after quite a tense, competition between several candidates, including Friedrich Merz, including him, Armin Laschet, I think that's how it's pronounced. Armin Laschet, a German politician, and was elected as the head of the CDU, the largest party within the German parliament, and the party that elects the party whose nomination for chancellor for somebody who become the chancellor will likely make them the chancellor. And usually it's the head of the party that becomes also the chancellor of the country. Not always the case, but usually that's the case. And Armin Laschet just became the head of the party, the leader of the party. So that's makes him. Uh, and CDU has been ruling Germany for most of its history following World War II, Christian Democratic Union. So I think there is a good chance that he'll become the next Chancellor of Germany. I don't know. Did you hear about this news at all, by the way?
No, no, not at all. And I went on DW a few times today, but I don't know that. I know that the Russian politician who was poisoned, he's back in Russia now, and he's gonna go in
Oh
jail for
yeah.
30 days. That was all over DW. But this, no, I didn't actually see it or hear about it.
All right. So let me go into some detail. Armin
Yes,
Laschet,
please.
he's seen as a bit of a continuity candidate, and he's from the centrist camp of CDU, which is closer to Merkel. And he managed to beat Friedrich Merz, who was actually a major rival of Merkel when she was becoming the leader of the CDU. So he became the leader. He's seen as somebody who's um, far more pro-European than Merkel. He has criticized Merkel for not being ambitious enough and not, you know, he's if he has talked positively about Macron's ambitious plans for expansion of EU. So that's one aspect that he may be somewhat different from compared to Merkel. He actually has served in the European Parliament as well for 6 years, if I'm not mistaken, focusing on international relations and that type of thing. He has negatively been described as somebody who's soft on Russia. This is a derogatory term in Germany, apparently. Russland Verster. That's how they've described him. As somebody who's somewhat soft on Russia and Vladimir Putin. But considering that Germany needs Russian energy, that's not a major surprise. And he's been far more active in internal politics. He was the governor of basically the largest and the most industrialist and the richest state of Germany, Bavaria. So that's another aspect of you know uh, him. He's he's somewhat of a he's a bit of a law and order candidate as well, which is somewhat surprising. Zero tolerance on crime, and he's been emphasizing security and domestic safety a lot. Interestingly, though, his reaction to coronavirus and his calls to end lockdowns early have backfired, and he's been criticized on that a lot. And that was something that was seen as his when the election was going on. That was seen as as the as his weakest spots potentially, and something that may have lost him the leadership, which it didn't. He won. Um, Economically, he's a centrist, very much. He's on same lines as uh, Merkel. I would say he's like, I think he's for more economic integration within Europe, and I think he was for more German help for the Greeks during the Greek crisis, if I'm not mistaken. He was for Eurobonds. So there are differences, but largely largely from the centrist camp of Merkel. On the climate issues, interesting, he's again a bit of a mixed bag. He was working on climate on when he was in the European Parliament, but since he's become the governor of Bavaria, he's usually sided with the industry over actions like public lands that have been recently repurposed or something businesses have been allowed to use. There have been protests that he sided with industries in those protests. He's so he's has a very mixed bag there, on the climate issues. um, uh, and to be honest, the most interesting thing about him is that he's not at all popular. He largely won because most of the party didn't want Frederick Merz to win. And there are talks that he may not become the candidate. That's why we emphasize the potential aspect of it a lot. He may not be the CDU's candidate for chancellorship because right now I think let me just check my notes so I don't mispronounce the names. But CDU actually, this is the national party, and they don't run in Bavaria. In Bavaria, their sister party CSU runs. And in Bavaria, yes, I think I'm correct. I may be incorrect on this. I'm mixing up things right now. But anyway, CSU is led by Markus Soder. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. And he's far more popular within the grassroots of the party. His popularity is, I believe, above 70%, while Armin Laschet's popularity is something around 15%, something very low. So some people are thinking that he might run, although he has ruled it out, and he said that he prefers to stay in a state politics. So, but there are still talks of him potentially becoming the candidate for chancellorship. There is also Heiko Maas, the German foreign minister, who's been very popular within the party and within the public. He's very young, very popular. And his support for Armin Laschet was seen as something crucial for him winning. So there are talks that he may become the candidate for the chancellorship, or he may join a joint kitted with Markus Soder. So, interesting development. I mean, I would still say, if I had to bet, Armin Laschet would be the next chancellor of Germany. And by the way, right now CDU is ahead of the Socialist Party by like 10 points within, so I mean, it's highly unlikely that a different party would come to power, although they will have to make deals with probably Greens and some other, smaller parties as well. So they may go into coalition, but it will be CDU dominated for sure. It seems, unless, something suddenly happens, which is not unlikely if 2020 is anything to go by. So.
Yeah. So, I mean, when could Merkel get replaced?
I think it's in next 6 months or so, if I'm not mistaken. Less than 6 months. I have to look at the exact date, but she'll be she hasn't been the head of the party for a long time now. And her chosen successor, AKK, was basically, she couldn't control the right of the party, so she failed.
That's true, right? Yeah. What happened like a few months ago, like a year or two ago or something? Yeah. So she lost her.
If I'm not mistaken, the CSU ended up voting on an issue with ADF, the right-wing, somewhat radical and somewhat Nazi-like new party that is emerging in Germany, and they shouldn't have voted. Like, they defied her orders. So basically, they undermined her authority as the party leader, and she had to resign because she was looking like a somebody in emperor's clothing type thing, just ordering and nobody following. So that she couldn't control the right wing of the party, basically, even though she was quite conservative. Oh, it's interesting to point out both Armin Laschet and AKK, they were both opposed to gay marriage, for example. They're both devout Catholics, but I don't think they want to reverse the law now that it's passed, but they did oppose it originally.